for posterity. Welcome to this month's Transition Roundup. I'm Kate Deedy. I'm TSLP up here in the North Central region. Today we're going to be talking with Brett Burden from Dakota Link and Jordan Shu from Dakota State University about assistive tech. We have some upcoming, if I can get my slide to change, here we go. Some upcoming events we want to talk about. We have more roundups coming up, February 22nd, March 22nd, and our last one of this school year will be April 26th.
And we typically do a kind of a combination of technical assistance. I think the state Department of Education wants us to talk a little bit about compliance, just some reminders on some of our calls, but a lot of it's just kind of topics of interest or things that may be appropriate for the spring with transition.
So be looking for upcoming emails regarding those and the subjects we'll cover. I know we've talked about discussing some graduation and coding, and there'll be some information on some summer activities coming up. Katie Grant will present on that in March, so be looking for those. The big news is we have Catch the Wave coming up, which is focusing on post-secondary education, both at the tech school level and university level. And let me, so we have Mitchell coming up on February 23rd. Mission will be March 8th, Rapid City on March 22nd, Vermilion at USD on March 23rd, Watertown at Lake Area Tech, March 28th, and in Aberdeen at Northern State University on April 4th. If you have questions or want to register, contact your liaison and we'll get you set up. We also have the 23rd Annual Youth Leadership Forum coming up in June. Registration has closed. We are in the process of interviewing those who've applied, and hopefully those delegate those letters will be going out the end of March. The Summer Institute. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, let's see. I was just thinking that Bev might have some information on the numbers for the Youth Leadership Forum, the number of applicants, and I think she's been working on the Summer Institute also, so maybe she could share a little bit of her inside knowledge.
Okay, sure. So with YLF, I believe we have like 97 students who have applied, which is great. We have been able to have close to 100 students now for the last several years, so that's awesome. Unfortunately, we're not able to take everybody. We accept about 45 students, or we try to get 45 students to come. So actually we accept about 50, and it usually works out pretty well. As far as the Summer Institute, we are working on that as well. And I can just tell you a few of the folks that we're going to be having come speak. Certainly not all of them, but these are some of our main speakers. We're going to have Cody Clark, who's a young man from Louisville, Kentucky. He does speaking around the country about removing barriers for people with disabilities. He is a young man who happens to have autism, and he also performs magic tricks and does magic shows. So we're going to have him do a general session, and then he's going to talk again during our luncheon and do some magic for us. So that should be fun. We also have Michael Storr will be with us, and Michael works with NTACT, which is the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition, who we look to for making sure that we're up to date and current on all of the requirements and such. So he will be with us and doing a couple sessions. Doug Crandall, who is with Griffin Hammis, can't remember where he's coming out of, but Doug is a national expert on supported employment issues, and also especially working with people with significant disabilities. So he has told us that he would be happy to join us, and so he'll probably be doing a couple sessions with us as well. And then, like always, we will be also getting some local folks within the state to do some sessions, and we will be inviting various adult service agencies like we always do to make sure that teachers are aware of the resources that are out around the state for us. So those are just a couple highlights of what we'll be doing with the Summer Institute.
Some real exciting stuff coming up this summer, and it'll be here before we know it.
Yes.
Just a reminder too, we are available to come to your schools, work with you on if you're getting reviewed in the next year or so. We'll help you review those files ahead of time so we can help identify any issues prior to the state review teams coming in. We're here to help you if you're writing an IEP and need assistance or have questions or about adult services, resources. That's what we're here for. So here's our contact information, but you can find that also on tslp.org. Be sure to give us a call, shoot us an email. Well, that's what we do. We're here to help you, so don't be shy. Any other comments or additions, Bev, Dave?
I think we're doing good.
Okay.
We can probably turn things over to Brett and Jordan, and I'm very excited that they've agreed to share their knowledge today. Brett has worked for several years out here in Western South Dakota. He also coordinates the technicians around the state in helping students or adults or just anyone who needs some assistance with assistive technology. And also very happy to have Jordan Shu with us today. He's the disability coordinator at Dakota State University, and he has some expertise. I think there's a large population of students who maybe are on the autism spectrum who he works with, and so he'll bring some unique perspectives to today's presentation as well. And let's see, Jordan, would you like to start and just share a little bit about maybe what your job is all about and tips? It could be assistive technology devices, strategies, anything that you'd like to discuss.
Sure. Gonna take this out because it feels weird to have both of those in. So as Dave said, I'm Jordan Shu. I work at Dakota State University. I've been in my role now for about 4-ish years, I think. So and I'll tell you guys, I learn about as much when we start talking assistive technology as everyone else does. I'm fairly green in the world of assistive technology, but we do see it on our campus. And luckily, a lot of our students work with Voc Rehab and Dakota Link, and those services do a lot of the training and support for the students. So I thankfully don't have to know too terribly much about it, but I do have to, at some point in time, know how to connect those students. So that's kind of a quick intro from me. How much more do you want me to say, Dave? I could turn it over to Brett.
We could turn things over to Brett, but maybe I'm just kind of thinking here, maybe one question before we do that. Is it important for students to have some ability to use their assistive technology before they get to college?
Yeah, so we, a lot of the students we work with have access to assistive technology before they ever step foot on our campus. And that's one of the big reasons we don't honestly know a ton about it as the college disability world, because they've done such a good job in the K-12 high school realm with Voc Rehab and things like that, where the students have access to it early. They're used to it, they're familiar with it, and they know how to use it. We do have on rare occasions where students then will come to campus where they'll get it as they're coming to the college world. But like I said, a lot of the times, like our Voc Rehab, Dakota Link, things like that will connect with the students. They'll work through me to find spaces to connect with those students on our campuses, but they do a lot of the initiation and training for us. We just connect the students to the appropriate resources. And as we get into it a little bit further, I have some other points. I mean, we do work with the assistive technology. I don't want to tell you we don't at all, because that's not true. But when we get to the college world, as in any world, our budgets kind of constrict a little bit, and we try to do everything we can as inexpensively as possible, which isn't best serving to the students, obviously. But when our business offices and such are watching us, and what we're spending money on, we try to do what we can to supply all the appropriate services at the minimal cost. But yeah.
Okay, all right, Brett, what can you tell us about yourself and Dakota Link?
Well, I can tell you a whole lot, I'm sure. Probably way more than you would ever want to know or need to know. I guess I'll just start off with a little history of us. Dakota Link's been around since 1992. We were formed as part of a federal grant, also known as the Tech Act grant. Basically, it gives us a pot of money every year to work with people with disabilities and provide information on assistive technology and services for assistive technology. We're part of Black Hills Special Services. Our grant is administered through the co-op, and we also work very closely with the South Dakota Department of Human Services Rehabilitation Services Division 2. And through that, we work really closely with folk rehab and service to the blind and all of the other entities connected to those, which would include school districts and colleges and family support, the VA. You know, we pretty much will work with anybody. We work with all ages and all disabilities. And that in my 15 years here, I've worked with kids as young as 1 or 2 years old and all the way up over to, you know, well over 100 years old. So we feel like we've got a pretty good knowledge base of different situations and how to help people find technology for those situations to help them live more independently, do better in school, do better in work, or some combination of those 2 or 3 different areas. Some of our goals, our mission statement is to assist individuals with functional limitations due to a disability, illness, injury, or the effects of aging, maximize their potential at home or at work or at school through the use of technology. And part of that is improving access to assistive technology. That could be just giving people information about it. Could be, you know, doing events like this where we increase awareness of technology devices. And we also work on improving acquisition of those devices as well. So, you know, that could involve demonstrating equipment to somebody. It could involve helping them find a funding source for it, and it could help. Could involve also training them how to use it after they've obtained it, or any combination of those or all of them. We like to refer to ourselves as kind of a turnkey solution for people's assistive technology needs. There's 2 parts to our program. One part is our grant side that pays for stuff like this, pays for our offices, part of our staffing, and it also provides some money for equipment every year. Every state has a program like ours. Most of them have a library of equipment that they can loan out, and we're no different there. We've got several $100,000 worth of equipment that we can loan out to people that want to try something before they buy it. You know, it works very well because oftentimes assistive technology is expensive. Some of the the magnifiers and low vision equipment, for example, can cost several $1,000s. We have those on hand, and we can meet with somebody and show them not only the one that they think they want, but maybe a couple of alternatives to it too. And they can kind of judge those and pick which one they think will work best for them.
Brett, can I jump in for just a minute?
Yep.
Let's see. So I think we have a lot of high school educators here, and one of the requirements on the state IEP would be that the teams consider whether assistive technology is needed as a related service. And do you believe that maybe more schools could be reaching out to determine whether that is something needed? And how would you recommend that schools start? Should they buy a piece of equipment right away, or should they look at an assessment, or what would your thoughts be?
Well, typically schools reach out to me or one of the other technicians, and they say, we've got this kid who struggles with reading. We're not sure where to go with that. But what would you suggest? So for example, in a situation like that, I would say, well, here's a few options for you. Some low tech stuff and some high tech stuff that might work. If you would like us to come out and do an evaluation, we certainly can do that. That's something that we charge for. Ideas and tech support and stuff are always free. You can always just give me a call for ideas. But if you want an evaluation for a student for a particular subject, we would come out to your school, or you can come to our office, and we would meet with that student and show them some different options for whatever they're struggling with, whether it's reading or writing or math or vision loss or hearing loss, or there's just a huge variety of different things out there that we could look at. But then you would get a written assessment report with our recommendations in it that we feel would work well with the students' goals and what we observed, and we always take the students' opinion into account as well. So we try to find what the technology that'll work best for that situation. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes. And would you be okay if we switch back to Jordan and have him talk a little bit about some of the things he's doing, and then we'll come back with you shortly.
All right. So, like I said earlier, we kind of, at the college level, we kind of defer to our experts in the field, like Brett, to do a lot of that training aspect of it. But one thing we do notice at our level is, I want to say, like, as students get the assistive technology and start utilizing it, and you guys probably know this from the K-12 level as well, once a student starts receiving services, you tend to notice, I'm not going to say always, because that's not a great word to use ever. So you start to tend to notice a student's success or their path starts to change. So that's one thing. As soon as we can get a student connected with whatever resource or service it is they need to be successful, that's kind of my goal at the college level. I want to get them in as soon as possible, connected with services as soon as possible. If it were to go to a level of needing, like Brett was talking about, some of that more advanced assistive technology, what we would probably do on the college level is look for alternatives in the meantime while they're working to get either that more expensive or kind of more technological based assistance. We would work with the student to say, okay, well, in the meantime, what can we do to assist you until we have a better plan in place? Because as Brett can probably allude to, that stuff doesn't just like happen. It takes some time. There's schedules you have to jockey. There's purchasing, there's, all that other stuff. So that's kind of, I would say, is probably my biggest role in the field. And like I said, it's all about the earliest we can connect that student to the resource that'll help them be the most successful. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Some of our more, I'll get into this a little bit. Some of the stuff we see most on our campus, as Brett was talking about, a lot of it is visual at the college campus. So like a Zoom text, things of that feature are what we mostly see. And then another pretty common one, which we accommodate on our campus with some free softwares and other options, some lower cost options, is like audiobooks, e-texts, screen readers, things of that nature are some of the other options we see more of. So that's where my knowledge base, I would say, is more where I'm more adept, as opposed to some of the audiology assistive technologies that I know are out there, FM transmitters, things like that. Since I've been here, I haven't had a student with an FM transmitter or anything where they've needed assistance in the hearing world. We have, I was going to say tutors, but it's translators. We actually have a student right now on our campus that has translators. So that we get in more to that, but that's not really assistive technology. But there are things out there such as like Otter that can help bridge that gap as well, which is another, it's kind of a text to, or not text, it's a speech to text. And we could talk about this for, I think, days. I mean, we can just kind of brush the surface in an hour, but yeah, that's kind of what we see mostly at the college level. I am a little bit knowledgeable at the K-12 level, but not nearly what Brett is. So I'll defer to him on that aspect.
Okay. And let's see, Jordan, are there any like apps or lower cost things that you're seeing your current students using to help meet their needs?
That is a great question. We do use Otter. I think we only have one account right now. We used to have 5, but we weren't using them. So one of our staff members actually utilizes that. Our students, I think the biggest one that we've kind of given out and used on our campus is Speechify. And that's just a screen reader software, very similar to like Natural Readers, which is a free version, but you can pay for that. That's mostly what our students are using for more of that PDF to, it would be more of the text to voice application is mostly what we see.
Let's see, with just maybe software that comes through Microsoft, are there tools there that you see your students using? Or
yeah, so Microsoft has actually come quite a bit in the last probably 5-ish years. They actually have a dictate feature in all of the Office suites now. So it'll read, for the most part, fairly well what's on the screen to you. And then they also have, which we utilize in our world as well, like OneNote and things like that allow you to record video and or audio and play back at a later time. So we utilize that aspect of it too, because we purchase all the Office suites and things like that. So that's another lower cost alternative we use if needed to get them through to a better solution down the road, if that's the case.
okay, and it looks like let's see, we have a question in the chat. Katie Grand from Voc Rehab is asking, what are your experiences with the Grammarly app or apps for math, like Math Solver and Photo Math? And that could be for, I guess, either or both of you. So Brett, I don't know if you.
Yeah. Just, I've had quite a bit of experience with all two of those. Not so much with Math Solver, but definitely Grammarly and definitely PhotoMath. We've had a ton of people use both of those. I feel like the paid version of Grammarly is probably a little bit better than the free version. I've tried the free version and I don't feel like it really gives you that much more than, you know, the tools that are built into Microsoft Office already. But the paid version gives you quite a bit. It's relatively inexpensive. I think it's like $100 a year. I think it's probably worth it for a student that really needs that extra help with reading and writing and spelling and grammar. PhotoMath is an excellent app. I think it's great. For those of you that don't know what it is, it basically allows you to take a picture of a math problem and it solves it for you. Now that sounds like horrible cheating, but it also gives you the step-by-step what it did to get to the answer. The other really cool thing about it, and I can show you this right here. I just wrote a math problem on this sticky note and I can just snap a picture of that. So hopefully this will show up on, maybe not backwards on your screens, but it gave me not only the answer, but if I click on this show solving steps, it shows you exactly what it did. So it's a great tool for people that need to know how to do something rather than just getting the answer. And you can read through that and you can say, oh, this is what I did here, this is what I did here, and this is how I got to my solution. The one little quirk with it is it does not work with story problems. So it looks for numbers. It doesn't know how to decipher letters and words. So, you know, it is what it is, but it's free and it works great. It seems like Math Solver is a similar app, and I think there was another one out there similar to that as well. We used to use one on the computer called Algebrator, and then there was a Microsoft Mathematics is another good one that's free. You know, Jordan mentioned earlier some free stuff where when we're evaluating people and giving suggestions and stuff, we're definitely not limited to any expensive high-tech stuff. We always start at the bottom and say, you know, you've got an iPhone, let's look for some cool apps for it that won't cost you anything. You know, if those won't do it for you, we'll definitely look at some more expensive stuff too. But, you know, we're open to whatever works. And we do, I personally like using the cheapest, most effective way possible. So that's kind of our motive there.
Guys, when we do our Catch the Wave events, I hear an awful lot about the Echo pens. I mean, is that still a thing, or is that like totally yesterday now?
Well, it is still a thing. I have one right here, actually. This is the old version. Little history on these. We started recommending these probably 10 years ago, if not longer. They were great devices, very easy to use, very simple. All you needed was one of these little notebooks. You could do everything from the notebook and the pen. This is all you needed. Somewhere during the pandemic, the company that makes these ran out of some piece that goes inside of them, and they decided that they were going to make a new version. It took forever to come to market, and we got it, and it seemed like it was going to be just fantastic. But the feedback I've gotten so far from 3 of our guys is that they don't really like them. They're buggy. There's delays. The PC software doesn't work quite right. A couple of people really like them, and they feel like there's no problem. So it's not something that we've completely written off yet, but the old, well, sometimes the older and trusted and well-known product just worked better. And I'm hopeful that they'll work out some of their bugs and stuff with updates and whatnot. But that's
Brett, some of our folks may not be familiar with the EchoPen. Can you kind of just give like a 1-minute overview on how it works or the
sure.
process?
So the EchoPen has a microphone built in right there, and we'll turn it on here. There's a pen, an actual ink pen built into the tip here, and inside the tip there's also a little camera. So as you're writing in these special notebooks, the notebooks have a bunch of little dots, microscopic dots printed on the page, and the camera that's in the pen records where you've written something and where those dots are. And it knows when you go back and tap your pen on where you've written a note, it'll play back the sound that you've recorded from that spot.
So that could be like a teacher, professor.
Yep. You can use it to record whatever's going on in the classroom around you. You know, they hold quite a bit. You can go back months or years sometimes, depending on how much you write. You know, you don't have to write a whole lot. If you don't want to, you can kind of just write some little cliff notes here and there. You can write a whole paragraph if you want, or fill up the whole notebook. Just as long as you give it something to kind of timestamp where you took a recording at. They're, like I said, they were great devices. They worked great. And they were relatively inexpensive. So that's the EchoPen in a nutshell. The new version I was really hopeful for because it's got Bluetooth built in, and you could take a Bluetooth microphone and set it up by the teacher, and it would pick up sounds a lot better than this little thing would all the way across the room.
We have another question in chat from Katie. Do you have a list of free stuff that you know are helpful and that could be shared?
The best list I have found so far is, let me see if I can Google this real quick. There is a website called askjan.org. I'll drop this into the chat here.
I think that's the Job Accommodation Network. So maybe through the Department of Labor.
Yep. If you go in there and you let's see, click on A to Z lists, it'll give you a list of disabilities. You can sort by accommodation. For example, like Braille, you could sort by, you know, accommodations for people that use Braille, or reading disabilities or blindness or whatever the case may be. And it'll give you a pretty comprehensive list of different technologies that are available for people that fall into that category. I'm sure it's not complete, you know, none of us will ever have a complete list of technology out there, but this one is by far the best one I've found. That's a great resource.
Okay, and let's see, Brett, I did notice in my email box that I just had a newsletter from Dakota Link. If folks wanted to sign up for, I don't know if it's every 2 months or quarterly that comes out, if they want to kind of keep on top of some new things or what's happening with assistive technology, how can they get signed up for that newsletter?
you want to sign up for the newsletter and receive that. It comes out quarterly. All you have to do is email our grant manager, Paige Hudson. He is in Sioux Falls, and I will drop his email address into the chat. It's phudson@dakotalink.net. And just ask him to add you to his list of people that he sends the newsletter to. He'd be happy to do that.
I think one other question we had was, we heard a little bit in that newsletter about a new app, Glean. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I'm not super familiar with this yet. We just signed up to be a reseller for them a couple weeks ago. So I haven't dug into it super deep, but it's, from what I've seen so far, it's a comprehensive note-taking app that you can use to record audio. You can type notes. You can take little screenshots from PowerPoints or assignments or stuff like that. And you can it's just kind of an all-in-one place where you can organize your notes into. The cool thing about it is that it works on any platform. So if you've got a PC and an Android phone, you can use both of those devices wherever you're at. If you've got an iPhone and a Mac, you can use it on both of those, or whatever combination of hardware that you have, it'll work on those. It is a subscription product. I think it's $120 a year. We've recommended it for a couple people so far, and they seem to like it. My technician in Sioux Falls that found it, he really likes it, and I think I have high hopes for it. Hopefully it'll be a great tool for not only just college students, but everybody. On that same note, there's a couple of other note-taking apps out there that are pretty nice. If you have an iPhone or an Android device, there's an app called Audio Note, and I think this was $12. It looks like that. Get that to focus here. Maybe not. Just have to trust me on that one. It looks like a microphone on top of a legal pad. I think it's $12. When you open it up, it looks like a page of notebook paper, and you can type in notes on there on your phone, and you can also record audio and then go back and listen to it later. The nice thing about that is if you've typed in a whole page of notes in there, you can tap on one of the lines of text and it'll skip to that spot. Pretty cool app. I think it's great. It's one of the better ones we've tried out. Jordan mentioned Otter.
Fred, can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
Or ask, and it makes me think of this when you talked about being able to record and take notes. I had heard, or I'm wondering, with the Glean app, it talks about audio, but can a person also get a text copy of the notes with Glean? Do you know?
Like a transcribed copy, like you would talk and it would convert that into text for you.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on that with Glean.
Okay.
Jordan mentioned Otter. I will drop that into the chat here. That's the website for it, otter.ai. That program or that app will do that. It will transcribe voice into text. And there's a few others that'll do that too. Otter is probably one of the most popular ones out there. I don't know if it's the best. The free version includes, I think, 300 minutes per month. So if you go over that 300-minute mark, you may have to look at a subscription for it. The cool thing about that app is that it is not really speaker dependent. as in you don't have to train it. It's smart enough to know that if you set your phone down in the middle of a table and there's 3 or 4 people sitting there, it'll still transcribe all of their voices within reason, and it'll be fairly accurate. Some of the other speech recognition software out there, Dragon, I'm sure some of you or all of you have probably heard of that. That one is speaker dependent and you have to train it, and it only works well with your voice after you've trained it. So if, for example, if I was using Dragon and somebody else sat down at my computer and put my headset on and tried to dictate, it probably would not be accurate. There's a few other programs out there like that that work similar, but most of them have some sort of training element where it's trained to the person's voice.
And in talking with one other disability services person at the post-secondary level just recently, she mentioned Otter, that seems to be the best one that they have found that works, or that the students like and seems to work well. I mean, that's just one person I've talked to, but Jordan is shaking his head yes, so probably agreeing with that.
Yeah, that's probably by far the best option we've found. When you look at accuracy, cost, all that, when you look at holistically, that's probably one of the best options out there, I would say.
Let's see, and I know both of you guys talked about vocational rehabilitation and how that may help to access some assistive technology devices. And I'm wondering if we've got Katie Gran on. She's the transition specialist for the state's VR program. And Katie, would you be willing to talk a little bit about how schools and how VR could work together to help meet students' assistive technology needs, kind of how that process works?
Sure. So, the student would need to apply and be eligible for VR services. And then as they are talking with the counselor about their employment goals, their post-secondary goals, especially post-secondary goals, one of the first conversations that they typically have is, let's make a referral to Dakota Link. That way the experts can come in and, show you what's available, give them so that they can also give their opinions about what apps and devices would work best for that student. And then we get the recommendation report back, and then we go through it with the student. And then we say, yeah, they can say, yes, I would be interested, or no, I don't want that. And then we can look at purchasing that so that they can use it at the post-secondary level. And then if down the road and then Dakota Link comes back after they get all the equipment, they do some initial training. And then if for whatever reason the student isn't figuring out how to use the app, or they just haven't used it in a while and need to be retrained, then we can always bring Dakota Link staff back and have them retrain the student on how to use it so that it's helpful to them and not a hindrance. That's one thing that we've noticed, though, is if the students don't have the opportunity to try and learn this while they're in high school, when they get to that post-secondary level, they're less likely to use all of these great devices because they're in a new environment. Expectations of classes are completely different. They're usually studying a lot more, and there's just a lot more responsibility with the class levels at the post-secondary. So the AT kind of gets pushed aside because they don't have time to learn something new. So if the students have the opportunity to try these devices while they're still in high school, that's the best way to do it. And then that way they're comfortable with it. And then when they go to college, then at least they're familiar with the devices enough that it's not a burden to them to learn that too.
So is it possible to, like with a school district and a VR counselor, can they work together to maybe identify some things? Maybe the school would buy a device and the VR might help pay for some training? Does that ever happen? Or
No, not necessarily. Sometimes if we get an acceptance letter to a college or, a university or a technical college, if we have that acceptance letter of for sure we know where they're going somewhere, then sometimes we can purchase it earlier. But a lot of these post-secondary programs have specific computers and programs depending on the degree that they have to have. And we can only purchase one computer for the students. So, and I believe there's some other counselors on here. So if they want to jump in too, feel free to do so. But usually that's the only time that we can consider purchasing some AT device while they're still in high school, is if the VR counselor has a copy of that acceptance letter and knows for sure that the student is going there.
okay,
Any other counselors want to jump in? I don't see him going off mute, so
thank you, Katie.
yeah.
So let's see, maybe we could shift gears just a little bit, and this maybe more is for Brett, but with our high school teachers here, are there some other assistive technology devices that you might want to talk about, maybe for students with more of a cognitive disability, or maybe on the autism spectrum, or maybe some organizational type devices that you've seen used, or apps?
Sure. As far as organization type stuff goes, we use a lot of free stuff for that. Google Keep is a great option. It's kind of an all-in-one note-taking checklist, to-do list app, and that one's free with Google. On the Apple platform, Reminders is a good tool. Notes. There's a new app that just came out for the Apple platform, and I forget what it's called. It just came out about a week ago, but it comes with your iPhone now, and it's kind of like a flow charting tool. So if you were trying to organize your thoughts into a writing assignment or something like that, it'll kind of give you some visual representations of how that stuff works. We also deal a lot with kids with or people of all ages, really, with reading disabilities. We have had historically a lot of success with some of the expensive stuff like Read and Write or Kurzweil 3000. I'm sure a couple of you have probably heard of those, if not most of you. Those are great programs, but there's also some other ones out there too. There is one for the iPhone called Seeing AI. I'll drop that into the chat here. That's an app for iOS devices. That one, it's free. You can use your iPhone to have things read to you. You basically, you don't even have to touch any buttons on the screen. You just have to hold it over some text, and it'll pull it out and read it to you. Some other good ones in that realm. Pull up my notes here for that. A lot of the schools seem to be gravitating towards these C pens. I don't know if you've seen these. They look just like a little pen that you would hold in your hand, and it operates the same way. You just kind of roll it over some text, and it reads it back to you. I've had varying success with these. They have some limitations. If you have some, I use this book as an example here. This book has some really large text on the page, on the cover, and you're limited to whatever fits inside this little window here. So that text on there is too big to fit inside that window, and it's a weird font. So there's some technical limitations to them, but if you're dealing with just some normal size print on a piece of paper. They do work pretty good. They've got a pretty long battery life. They're user friendly to use. They're relatively inexpensive compared to some other technology out there like it. So that's another one. If you haven't seen them yet, you probably will at some point. Another one that is very similar to that is called this World Pen Scan Go. I know that's a huge long name, but it works kind of the same way. It's actually intended for translating from one language to another, but it's got a text-to-speech feature that can read things that you've scanned into it. And you would basically just translate from English to English. These are quite a bit cheaper than the C-Pen. These I think are about $200. The C-Pen is at $300 or thereabouts. So these are a little cheaper. Let's see. Other apps for reading. There's one called Prismo that works kind of the same as that Seeing AI app that I mentioned. I might just dump some of these links into the chat here.
Okay. And could we have, let's see, maybe we could ask Jordan if he wants to share any additional information while you're doing that.
Sure.
Do we have Jordan on? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm still here. I was just taking notes too, because this is all good information. Learning new stuff. So I would just go back to or a little bit more into my realm is the note-taking aspect of things. And we typically drive students back to OneNote because they all receive it as a student at DSU. Very similar-ish, I would say, to that Glean. You can record, you can do notes, categorize, to-do lists, all that. It's basically a digital notebook. And then I've had a few students, some of my autism spectrum students actually use and have success with Obsidian. I don't know. I haven't dug into it much. Just another note-taking platform. From what I understand from the students, it almost like spider webs your topics. So if like computers, it'll link everything you've ever taken notes on that has computers in it to a button, and you can click computers and it pulls all your notes so you can review. Like I said, I haven't gotten into it too terribly much, but I've had a couple students that have used it as of recent, and they prefer it over most other note-taking softwares. So that was a new one to me too. And then, I mean, we've had students use like the Kurzweil and things like that in the past as well. So we do see those more expensive ones, and they're successful. And we actually still use them every once in a while to help convert PDFs from our professors and things like that to make them accessible for students, because not all PDFs are very accessible, as you may or may not know.
Well, Jordan,
Yeah.
We got more here. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking we're kind of coming up on our time.
Yep.
And I see that Brett has posted a lot of links, or many links to different pieces of software or hardware in the chat. And let's see, so if the folks who are on the call today, if they want more information from you, are you, I know Brett's available because a big part of his world is to share information, but if folks were to shoot you an email, Jordan, would you be willing to share back? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Super. And Bev, do you have more to add with these guys? Oh, there's Brett's.
I shared my screen here if
Okay.
you guys want to copy down my contact info and stuff. I just had it open in a PowerPoint here, so I figured that was convenient. And we're always open for questions and tech support, and you know, if you just need some advice on how to start, or you need some pretty high level stuff on something you're already working on, we're always available for that or anything in between.
Okay, super.
No, I don't think I have anything else. I was gonna maybe suggest before, yeah, to open it up for questions, but it might actually be better if people, because you probably have an individual student in mind for a question, so it might be better for you to just contact Brett or Jordan directly with that kind of question. But thank you so much, guys, for all this information. I've been trying to keep up with taking notes with everything you told us too. So thank you very much.
And Jordan, is your Jordan.schuh, SCHUH@dsu.edu?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Or look you up on the DSU website.
Yes.
Okay. Well, again, Brett, Jordan, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. We really appreciate it. And I just see that there's a lot of students when I'm reviewing files where I will see that, you know, we should be doing maybe a little bit more in investigating assistive technology for a lot of high school students. So we're hoping with the teachers here, VR counselors, that maybe your mind's been opened up a little bit more and you'll think about that as a possibility for some of your students, and you now have a couple of resources out there. And I guess with our transition staff, we're also happy to connect you with different people who can hopefully meet the needs of your students.
One thing I didn't mention, I guess, is we're always happy to help you try to find funding sources for stuff too. Our years of working in the field have led us to be pretty knowledgeable in finding funding for things too, and we can be pretty creative with that. So, you know, there's always ways to obtain technology even if you can't think of a funding source for it off the top of your head. So that's definitely a question that you should shoot our way if you have it.
Say, Brett, I'm going to be Medicare eligible here soon, so I'll get in touch with you. So.
I screen my calls though. Just kidding.
Well, again, thanks to all of our participants today for joining us. And again, we'll have another transition roundup next month. Our website, tslp.org, has all the information on the upcoming Catch the Waves. Love to see you and your students join us at one of those Catch the Wave events. So again, thank you so much.